February 12, 1945. A frozen road somewhere west of Schneidemühl, Pomerania. The world is gray. A sky the color of dirty steel presses down on a landscape of skeletal trees and snow-dusted fields. The air tastes of diesel fumes and fear. For Hanna Vogel, a 21-year-old Luftwaffe Helferin, the only sound louder than the grinding gears of the Opel Blitz truck is the frantic drumbeat in her own chest. Her uniform, a practical field gray wool, feels thin and useless against the wind that cuts through the canvas flap at the back of the truck. She clutches a Kar 98K rifle she barely knows how to use, its cold wooden stock a poor substitute for reassurance. Beside her, Liesel, a signals operator from Hamburg with eyes that have seen too much in her 19 years, shivers uncontrollably. It is not entirely from the cold. "Did you hear it?" she whispers, her breath a white plume in the frigid air. "The artillery. It's closer." Hanna nods, not trusting her voice. She heard it. Everyone in the cramped truck bed heard it. The deep, guttural crump of Soviet 152mm guns. For weeks, it has been the soundtrack to their retreat, a constant, predatory baseline that gets louder every day. They are no longer soldiers in a functioning army. They are debris, swept westward by the unstoppable red tide of the Zhukov's First Belarusian Front. The men around them, a haggard mix of Volkssturm old-timers and hollow-eyed Wehrmacht veterans, say nothing. Their faces are masks of exhaustion and grim resignation. The stories have traveled faster than the Red Army itself. Whispers passed in hushed tones in bombed-out barns and frozen ditches. Stories of Nemmersdorf, of villages where no woman was left untouched, where vengeance was a physical, brutal thing. The radio broadcasts from Goebbels call it Bolshevik savagery, but the accounts that trickle back with wounded soldiers and fleeing civilians are far more terrifying than any propaganda. They are specific. They have names. They have details that lodge in the mind like shrapnel. You are there, in the back of that truck. You feel the bone-jarring lurch as it hits a pothole filled with ice. The smell is a nauseating cocktail of unwashed bodies, stale cigarette smoke, and the faint, sweet odor of gangrene from a man's bandaged leg. The fear is a physical presence, a cold knot in your stomach. It isn't the abstract fear of death. It's the specific, gendered fear of capture, of what happens before death. A sudden roar overhead makes everyone flinch. Two Focke-Wulf 190s, their yellow noses a flash of defiant color against the gray sky, scream low over the column. A fool's errand. A gesture of defiance in the face of an avalanche. Moments later, the response comes. The whine of incoming shells. The driver shouts something, lost to the wind. The truck swerves violently, throwing bodies against each other. Hanna gasps as the rifle is nearly knocked from her hands. The convoy grinds to a halt. Men pour out of the vehicles, fanning out into the shallow ditches lining the road. An officer, his face smudged with dirt and stubble, bellows orders. "Disperse! Take cover! IL-2's spotted!" Hanna and Liesel slide over the tailgate, their boots sinking into the slush. The air is suddenly filled with the terrifying buzz of the Sturmovik ground attack aircraft, a sound the soldiers call the Black Death. A shadow passes over them. The world erupts. A truck 50 meters ahead vaporizes in a ball of orange and black. The concussion wave hits them like a physical blow, stealing their breath and ringing their ears. Dirt and ice rain down. They scramble for the meager cover of a ditch, pressing themselves into the frozen earth. The cannons of the Sturmoviks open up, a sound like a giant tearing a sheet of canvas. Thump, thump, thump. Tracers stitch lines across the fields. Another explosion rocks the ground. Hanna squeezes her eyes shut, praying to a god she is no longer sure she believes in. She thinks of her mother in Dresden, wondering if she is even alive. She thinks of the stories, the rape, the mutilation, the slow march to a Siberian labor camp. Anything but that. The attack lasts for an eternity that is probably less than 2 minutes. Then silence, broken only by the crackle of the burning truck and the groans of the wounded. The sky is empty again. Hanna pushes herself up, her uniform caked in mud. Liesel is beside her, pale but unharmed. The column is a wreck. Wounded men are being dragged from the ditches. The officer is shouting again, trying to restore order from chaos. But then a new sound emerges from the east. Not the crump of artillery. It's closer, sharper. The distinct, high-pitched crackle of PPSH-41 mixed with the slower, heavier retort of German MP-40s. A firefight. It's not miles away. It's just beyond the trees. The Red Army isn't coming. They are here. The officer's face goes slack. The retreat is over. This is the end of the line. Panic, cold, and absolute begins to set in. The men who can still run do. All discipline evaporates. It's every man and every woman for themselves. The road west is blocked by fire. The woods to the south are their only chance. Liesel grabs Hannah's arm, her eyes wide with terror. We have to run, now. The forest is a nightmare of tangled undergrowth and deep snowdrifts. The snap of twigs underfoot sounds as loud as rifle shots. For hours, Hannah and Liesel stumble westward, part of a small, dissolving group of soldiers and auxiliaries. The sounds of the firefight fade behind them, replaced by the rasp of their own breathing and the pounding of their hearts. They lost their rifles somewhere in the chaos. They are unarmed, exhausted, and hopelessly lost. Hunger gnaws at them. The gray light begins to fail, the forest plunging into a deep, menacing twilight. Every shadow seems to hold a threat, a figure in a long coat, a flash of steel. Their imaginations, fueled by weeks of terror, populate the woods with Soviet scouts. They keep moving, driven by the primal need to put distance between themselves and the horrors they believe are unfolding back on that road. They don't talk. There is nothing to say. There is only the desperate, silent prayer. Not them, please, not them. By what must be morning, though the sky remains an oppressive sheet of gray, they collapse in a hollow, shielded by fallen logs. They are alone now, the others scared during the night. Liesel is weeping silently, her face streaked with dirt. "We're not going to make it," she sobs. "They'll find us." Hannah, numb with cold and fatigue, can offer no comfort. She can only stare into the woods, listening. And that's when she hears it. Not the Russian she expects, not the German she hopes for. It's a language she barely recognizes, a low murmur of voices carried on the wind. Then, the distinct sound of an engine, a low, steady rumble, unlike the coughing German trucks. Fear, sharp and new, lances through her exhaustion. Who is it? Partisans? They would be no better than the Soviets. She motions for Liesel to be silent, her hand over the younger woman's mouth. They press themselves deeper into the snow, trying to become invisible. The voices get closer. Hannah risks a peek over the log. Through the trees, she sees a vehicle. It's small, boxy, and painted a drab olive green she doesn't recognize. A white star is stenciled on its side. Men in unfamiliar helmets move with a casual confidence, carrying rifles that are not Mausers or Mosin Nagants. They are tall, they are clean-shaven. One of them is chewing something, his jaw working rhythmically. Americans. The relief is so sudden, so overwhelming, that Hannah almost chokes. It's an impossible miracle. The Americans. The news reports had them fighting hundreds of kilometers away, on the other side of the Reich. What are they doing here? A spearhead? A patrol that has pushed impossibly far east? It doesn't matter. They are not Russians. A soldier spots them. He raises his M1 Garand, his voice sharp but not aggressive. "Hey, over there! Hands up! Hände hoch!" Slowly, Hannah and Liesel rise, their hands held high. They are shivering, their faces gaunt, their uniforms torn and filthy. They look less like soldiers and more like frightened ghosts. The GIs approach, their weapons held at a low ready. They are young, some no older than Liesel, their faces a mixture of caution and curiosity. "Zwei Frauen," one of them says, a hint of surprise in his voice. "Wehrmachthelferinnen, looks like." An officer, a captain with weary eyes and a thoughtful expression, comes forward. He studies them for a moment. "You girls speak any English?" he asks. Hannah finds her voice. It's rough, cracked. A little from school. All right, you're our prisoners, you understand. No one's going to hurt you. His tone is matter-of-fact, devoid of the malice they had been conditioned to expect. He gestures with his rifle. Come on, we're moving out. They are marched to a makeshift collection point a kilometer away. Other Germans are there, dazed Wehrmacht soldiers who look as stunned as they feel. They are searched, disarmed of the single hunting knife they possessed, and given a canteen of water. The American soldiers watch them, some with pity, some with a detached professionalism. You are standing there, feeling the cold seep out of your bones, replaced by a bewildering sense of unreality. You were prepared for the end of the world. Instead, you have been given a canteen of chlorinated American water and a piece of chocolate that tastes impossibly sweet. Later, they are loaded onto a truck, a GMC, solid and powerful. As it rumbles west, away from the front, a wave of exhaustion washes over Hannah. For the first time in months, the sound of artillery is fading behind them, not growing louder in front of them. Liesl has fallen into a restless sleep, her head on Hannah's shoulder. Hannah watches the frozen landscape pass by. Prisoner of war. The words sound strange. They had always been a death sentence. But here, now, in this American truck, they feel like something else. They feel like a reprieve, a stay of execution. The fear that had been her constant companion for so long begins to recede, replaced by a fragile, tentative hope. The journey ends at a vast, muddy field surrounded by barbed wire, a temporary POW cage. They are processed. Their names, ranks, and units are taken down by a weary NCO. They are given a blanket and directed towards a large tent filled with other captured German women. The air inside is thick with the murmur of voices. As Hannah steps inside, a woman near the entrance looks up. Her face is pale. "Did you hear?" she asks in a low, urgent whisper. "They are talking about sending people back to the zones their units came from." The fragile hope in Hannah's chest shatters like glass. Her unit? Her last posting? It was in Pomerania, a place that no longer exists, a place that is now firmly, terrifyingly, in the hands of the Soviet Union. The camp is a world unto itself, a sprawling city of mud and canvas under the perpetually gray sky of early spring 1945. It's officially designated Prisoner of War Temporary Enclosure 21, near Limburg under Lahn. But to the thousands of captured German soldiers and auxiliaries, it is simply the wire. Life settles into a monotonous routine governed by roll calls, meager rations, and endless waiting. The American Guards are a distant presence, professional but largely indifferent. They are administrators of a surrendered army, and their task is overwhelming. For Hannah and Liesl, the initial relief of capture has curdled into a new, more insidious form of anxiety. The tent they share with 24 other women, nurses, signals operators, Flakhelferinnen, has become an echo chamber of rumor and speculation. The geography of post-war Germany is a terrifying, unknown map, and the women try to piece it together from scraps of information. A new batch of prisoners arrives, bringing stories from the front. A guard lets slip a word to a German prisoner working in the kitchens. A discarded copy of the Stars and Stripes newspaper is found and translated, its articles dissected for clues. Words like Yalta, occupation zones, and repatriation are spoken in hushed, fearful tones. The map they are drawing in their minds is one of stark divisions: the British zone, the American zone, the French zone, and the other one, the one they dare not name, but which occupies their every waking thought: the Soviet zone. One evening, a woman named Clara, who had been a Luftwaffe clerk in Silesia, returns from a work detail in the camp's administrative office. Her face is ashen. She gathers a small group, including Hannah and Liesl, in a corner of the tent. "I saw the lists," she whispers, her voice trembling. "They are categorizing everyone, not just by name and rank, by home address, last known station." Liesl's hands fly to her mouth. "Hamburg," she breathes. That's in the British zone, isn't it? Clara nods. You might be lucky, but me? Breslau. A silence falls over the group. Breslau is in Silesia, deep in what will undoubtedly be the Soviet sphere. The city had been declared a fortress, and the stories of the Red Army siege are apocalyptic. You can feel the invisible lines being drawn through the tent, dividing the women into two groups, the lucky and the damned. Those from the west, from the Rhineland, from Bavaria, begin to breathe a little easier. Those from the east, from Pomerania, East Prussia, Saxony, feel a cold dread solidify in their hearts. Hannah's last official posting was near Stettin, the port city on the Oder River. There is no doubt where that will fall. The fear is no longer about the chaos of the battlefield. It is a cold, bureaucratic fear. The fear of a line on a map, a stamp on a document. The fear of being a name on a list that will send you back into the very nightmare you just escaped. The stories from the new arrivals fuel this terror. A nurse captured near Berlin tells of the city's fall. She speaks in a flat, emotionless monotone that is more chilling than tears. She describes the cellars, the screams that went on for days, the Russian soldiers drunk on victory and schnapps, kicking down doors. She speaks of the Frau Komm command that echoed through the ruins. She tells of women, from young girls to grandmothers, being violated repeatedly, of officers encouraging their men to take their spoils of war. Her story is not a rumor. It is a first-hand testament, and it lands like a physical blow in the quiet of the tent. After she finishes, no one speaks for a long time. The abstract fear has become concrete, given a face and a voice. Liesel begins to have nightmares, waking up screaming in the dark. Hannah lies awake, staring at the canvas roof, her mind racing. She remembers the American captain who captured them, his weary, professional eyes. He had said, "No one's going to hurt you." Did he understand what back east meant? Did any of them? They see the Americans as naive, as boys playing at war, fighting a clean fight against soldiers. They cannot possibly comprehend the ideological, racial fury that characterized the war in the East. They cannot understand that for the Red Army, every German was complicit, every German woman a target for retribution. How could they explain it? How could they make these well-fed Americans, with their chewing gum and easy smiles, understand the existential dread of being handed over to the NKVD, the Soviet secret police? The camp's commandant, an American colonel, is a distant figure, but the day-to-day operations are run by junior officers and NCOs. One of them is a young lieutenant named Davies who speaks passable German. He's in charge of processing the female prisoners' records. He is their only potential link, their only hope. Hannah watches him. She sees him talking to the women, trying to be fair, trying to follow his orders. She begins to formulate a desperate plan. She cannot simply be a name on a list. She cannot be a cog in this vast machine of repatriation. She has to be a person to them. She has to make them see her. She has to make them understand that sending her east is not a transfer. It is a death sentence, or worse. The next time Lieutenant Davies comes to their section with his clipboard and his questions, she decides she will not just answer. She will speak. The opportunity comes a week later. The air has the first hint of real spring warmth, but it brings no comfort. A new directive has come down from Chef headquarters. The process of sorting prisoners for eventual discharge or transfer is accelerating. The war in Europe is in its final death throes, and the Allies are already grappling with the monumental task of managing millions of displaced people and surrendered soldiers. For the women in Tent 12, this efficiency is terrifying. Lieutenant Davies arrives with 2 sergeants, his familiar clipboard in hand. He is tasked with verifying the home of record information for every woman in the section. He is methodical, moving down the line of assembled women, asking questions, making notes. His German is functional, if heavily accented. Name: Last unit, Heimatadresse. Most women answer in monosyllables, their eyes downcast. But when he gets to Hanna Vogel, she looks him directly in the eye. Hanna Vogel, 3rd Luftnachrichtenregiment, last stationed near Stettin. Davies makes a note. Stettin, okay. He starts to move on. Lieutenant, Hanna says, her voice steady despite the tremor she feels inside. He stops, surprised. Prisoners do not usually initiate conversation. Yes? Lieutenant, you cannot send us back there, to the east. Davies frowns, a flicker of impatience crossing his face. Fräulein, I'm just verifying records. Your final disposition is determined by command, based on international agreements. He uses the official, impersonal language of a bureaucrat. These agreements, Hanna presses, her voice growing stronger, do they know what happens there? Do your commanders know what the Red Army does to German women? A few other women nearby turn to listen. The tent grows quiet. Davies looks uncomfortable. We are aware the conditions on the Eastern Front were harsh. Harsh? Another woman, a former radio operator named Ingrid, steps forward. Her voice is raw with emotion. They are not harsh, they are animals. My sister was in Königsberg. We got one letter out before the city was cut off. She said they pray for death. Do you understand? They pray for it. The lieutenant's professional demeanor begins to crack. He is a young man from Ohio, trained to fight and to process prisoners, not to confront the depths of human cruelty. Look, my orders are clear. I don't make the policy. This is the moment. Hanna knows it. The dam of her composure breaks, not into hysteria, but into a torrent of desperate, earnest pleading. Please, Lieutenant, I am begging you. We will work. We will clean the latrines. We will work in the fields. We will do anything you ask, for years, for the rest of our lives. Just do not send us to the Russians. We are not soldiers anymore. We are just women. We are afraid. Her voice cracks on the last word. Liesel, beside her, begins to weep openly. Please, Herr Leutnant, please, she chokes out. The scene becomes electric. Other women surge forward, their fear and desperation finally finding a voice. It's a chorus of pleading. Don't send us back. We have seen what they do. Lieber sterben. Better to die here. The two sergeants with Davies shift uneasily, their hands resting on their sidearms, unsure how to handle this sudden emotional uprising. They are used to sullen, compliant prisoners, not this raw, collective anguish. You are Lieutenant Davies. You are 23 years old. You signed up to fight Nazis, the jackbooted villains from the newsreels. You did not sign up for this. You look at the faces in front of you. They are young, terrified women, their eyes swimming with a horror you can only barely imagine. They are the enemy, technically, but their fear is utterly, undeniably human. What is your duty? Is it to the cold print on your orders, to the lines drawn on a map by politicians in a distant city? Or is it to the desperate human being standing before you, begging for mercy? Hanna holds his gaze. She is not trying to manipulate him. She is simply trying to transfer the truth of her terror from her heart to his. They will send us to the mines, to Siberia. If we are lucky, she says, her voice now a low, intense whisper. If we are not, you know what will happen. Your army would not do that. I know it. You are different. The appeal to his sense of moral superiority, to the perceived decency of the American army, hangs in the air. It is a desperate gamble, but it is all they have. Lieutenant Davies stands frozen for a long moment. The pleading eyes of dozens of women are on him. He looks down at his clipboard, at the neat columns and official letterhead. It seems absurdly inadequate for the weight of the decision it represents. He looks back at Hanna. He says nothing, but in his eyes, she sees a flicker of something new. Not pity, something deeper, a troubled understanding. He turns without another word and walks out of the tent, leaving the women in a suspended state of agonizing hope and fear. He had not said yes, but he had not said no. The lieutenant's abrupt departure leaves a vacuum in the tent. The outburst of emotion subsides, replaced by an even more torturous quiet. Did they help their cause, or did they seal their fate? Had they shown the Americans their humanity, or had they merely confirmed themselves as a problem to be disposed of quickly? For 2 days, they live on this knife's edge of uncertainty. Every footstep outside the tent, every shouted order from the guards sends a jolt of anxiety through them. Hannah finds herself ostracized by some, revered by others. A few of the older women glare at her. "You've made it worse," one of them hisses. "You drew attention to us. They'll send the troublemakers east first, just to be rid of us." But others, like Liesel, cling to her with a renewed, desperate hope. "He saw it," Liesel insists, repeating it like a mantra. "He saw the truth in your eyes. He won't let it happen." Hannah doesn't know what to believe. She replays the encounter with Lieutenant Damies in her mind 1,000 times, searching his expression for a definitive clue, finding none. The war in Europe officially ends. The news spreads through the camp, but it brings no celebration for the prisoners. VE Day is just a date. The real war, the war for their personal survival, is still being fought in the minds of their captors and on the pages of administrative lists. The change they have been dreading comes on the 3rd morning after Hannah's plea. It begins before dawn. The camp is awakened by the rumble of engines, not 1 or 2, but dozens. The sergeants are different today. Their movements are brisk, their orders sharp. "Tent 12, on your feet, roll call, gather your belongings." Panic flares. This is it, a transport, but to where? No one will say. The guards' faces are impassive stone. They are herded out of the tents into the pre-dawn chill. A long line of American GMC trucks is parked on the main track of the camp, their engines idling, headlights cutting through the morning mist. They are lined up. Names are called from a list. Ingrid Schmidt, the woman who had spoken of her sister in Königsberg, steps forward, her face a mask of terror. Liesel Keller. Liesel grabs Hannah's hand, her knuckles white. Hannah Vogel. Hannah's heart plummets. Her name is on the list. You stand in the line, the damp air clinging to your skin. This is the moment you have feared since the day you were captured. You watch as the women are separated. A group of about 50, including almost everyone from their tent, is directed towards the waiting trucks. A much larger group is ordered to stay. There is no discernible pattern. Women from the West are on the list, women from the East are told to stay. It seems random, arbitrary, which makes it even more terrifying. They are marched to the trucks. Hannah and Liesel are pushed towards the same vehicle, clambering over the tailgate into the dark, cavernous interior. Around them, women are weeping. Some are praying in low murmurs. The canvas flaps are pulled shut, plunging them into near darkness. The truck lurches forward. They are moving, but in which direction? The question hangs in the suffocating air of the truck bed. Every turn, every change in the engine's pitch is analyzed for meaning. Are they heading east, towards the River Elbe, towards a handover point with the Red Army? Or are they heading west, deeper into the American zone, to a more permanent camp, to a future that, while uncertain, at least offers the possibility of survival? Hannah finds a small tear in the canvas near the back of the truck. She presses her eye to it, trying to make sense of the world outside. For a long time, all she can see is the gray ribbon of road and the truck behind them. But then, as the sky slowly brightens from charcoal to a soft violet, she sees the sun. It is rising behind them. A single, shaky breath escapes her lips. It's not a gasp of joy. It's not a cry of relief. It is the simple, profound exhalation of a terror that has lived inside her for months. She turns to Liesel, who is watching her face intently. Hannah can only manage a small, almost imperceptible nod. West. Liesel's eyes fill with tears, but this time they are not tears of fear. She slumps against Hannah, her body finally letting go of the tension it has held for so long. Around them, the realization slowly dawns on the other women. The crying subsides, replaced by a profound, exhausted silence. They are not saved. They are still prisoners, their futures still unwritten. They are heading towards an unknown destination in a country that is no longer theirs. But they are heading away from the darkness. For now, on this uncertain dawn, that is enough. The truck rumbles on, a tiny vessel of fragile lives moving toward an unknown horizon, leaving the ghosts of the Eastern Front to be swallowed by the rising sun.